I'm Kira Carter, 35 years old, a single mom living in a cozy apartment in Portland, Oregon, where the rain-soaked streets and evergreen forests feel like home. My days revolve around my 12-year-old son, Noah, whose curious eyes and love for marine biology remind me so much of his father, James. I'm a part-time photographer, capturing the raw beauty of families and nature, and a school administrative assistant to pay the bills. Life hasn't been easy since James, a Coast Guard officer, died in a rescue mission 6 years ago. Leaving me to raise Noah alone, I've learned to stretch every dollar to find joy, in small moments like Noah's laughter when we spot seals on the Oregon coast. But nothing prepared me for the call that changed everything. It was a crisp Saturday morning, the kind where the air smells of pine and possibility. Noah burst into our tiny kitchen, his sneakers untied, buzzing about, biking with his friend Liam in Forest Park. "Mum, Liam's dad is driving us to the trails, can I go?" he asked, already shoving toast in his mouth. I glanced up from my coffee, smiling at his enthusiasm. "Helmet and phone," I asked, our usual safety check. He rolled his eyes, classic preteen, and nodded. "I'm not a baby, Mum." I ruffled his sandy hair, ignoring his playful dodge. "Humour me, be back by 4 for your science project shopping." "Okay." He grinned, promising, and pedalled off with his friends, waving back. As I watched from our window, that was the last moment of our old life. At 11:18 a.m., my phone rang, an unfamiliar number. A woman's voice, calm but urgent, asked if I was Noah Carter's mother. My heart stopped as she explained a car had veered onto the bike trail, hitting Noah. He was in critical condition, en route to Portland General Hospital, the world blurred. I don't remember grabbing my keys or driving, only sprinting through the hospital sliding doors, gasping Noah's name to the receptionist. "He's in surgery," she said gently. "I'll get someone to update you." The surgical liaison met me in a quiet room, her kind eyes steadying me as she explained Noah's injuries. Severe head trauma, a fractured femur, broken ribs, and internal bleeding. The neurosurgeon was working to reduce brain swelling, but the next 24 hours were critical. "Is he going to die?" I asked, my voice a stranger's. She didn't sugarcoat it. "He's young and was healthy before this." "That's in his favour, but it's serious." I called my father Robert, barely coherent through tears. He promised to come immediately. Then I sat in the waiting room, surrounded by other worried families. My world reduced to one thought: Noah had to survive. Noah's surgery lasted 6 agonising hours. I paced the hospital waiting room, my sneakers squeaking on the linoleum, whispering desperate prayers to a universe I hoped was listening. Every beep from a distant monitor made my heart race, as if it might carry news of my son. When the surgeon finally emerged, his face was somber but steady. "We stopped the bleeding in Noah's brain," he said, "but there's still significant swelling. He's in a medically induced coma to give his brain time to heal." He warned me to prepare for the sight of tubes, bandages, and machines in the ICU. "The next 48 hours are crucial," he added. "We're doing everything we can." When I saw Noah, my knees nearly buckled. My vibrant boy, who'd been chasing waves and sketching fish just hours ago, lay still. His head bandaged, a ventilator breathing for him. His face was swollen, bruised, unrecognisable. I sank into the chair beside him, taking his hand, gently mindful of the IV line. The nurse Rachel encouraged me to talk to him. "He might hear you even now," she said. So I did, my voice shaking, as I told him about the marine biology camp we'd planned for summer, the time he dressed as a scuba diver for Halloween. Mimicking his dad, I promised we'd visit the aquarium when he woke up. I kept talking, afraid silence might let him slip away. My father arrived that evening, wrapping me in a hug that unleashed a flood of tears. "You're not alone, Sarah," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. He stayed until nightfall, but my mother, Linda, didn't come. "She's tied up with a charity event," Dad explained, apologetic. "She's praying for Noah," I nodded to, drained to process the sting of her absence. That first night, I refused to leave Noah's side. Curling up in the recliner with a hospital blanket, the ICU staff became my lifeline. Rachel explained medical jargon, brought coffee, and gently nudged me to eat. I couldn't imagine stepping away. Terrified, Noah might wake up scared or take a turn for the worse without me there. Growing up in Seattle, I lived in the shadow of my mother, Linda's expectations. Our modern waterfront home was a showcase of her success as a real estate agent, but inside it was a pressure cooker. Linda demanded perfection. Perfect grades, perfect manners, perfect appearances. My younger sister Claire was her pride and joy. A straight A student with a knack for debate and a polished charm that won everyone over. I wasn't a slacker, decent grades soccer team, no trouble. But to Linda, I was never enough. Why can't you be more like Claire was her constant refrain. If Claire aced a test, my B was a failure. If she won a debate trophy, my game-winning goal was ignored. My father Robert, a quiet engineer, tried to soften Linda's criticism. She just wants the best for you, he'd say, but his words couldn't erase the hurt. By high school, I stopped trying to meet her standards. Instead, I found my own way. Photography became my escape, capturing candid moments of life that felt real, not staged. Volunteering at a local animal shelter gave me comfort in the wagging tails and purring cats who didn't judge me. These passions built a sense of self Linda couldn't touch. Though her disapproval never faded, I carried that weight, always hoping for her acceptance, but never quite reaching it. In college, I met James, a Coast Guard cadet, with a warm smile and a steady heart. He saw me, not Linda's flawed daughter, but Shiara, the woman who loved capturing sunsets and laughing at her own bad puns. He valued my photos, my quirks, my dreams. For the first time, I felt truly seen. When I told my parents about our engagement at 22, Linda was livid, a Coast Guard boy. "You're throwing away your future," she said, dismissing James' service. I pushed forward, marrying him in a small Portland ceremony Linda attended, her smile tight, criticising the venue, and my simple dress. Dad slipped me a check, whispering, "I'm proud of you." Noah came a year later, a perfect blend of James' adventurous spirit and my green eyes. Even Linda softened around him, though her suggestions about his upbringing grated. Too much screen time, not enough structure. James deployed twice, and I leaned on my parents for help during those stretches. But Linda's support came with criticism of my parenting, my part-time photography, my messy life. Then, at 29, my world shattered. 2 officers at my door, a folded flag, and the news that James had died in a rescue mission off the Oregon coast. Noah, just 5, couldn't grasp why Daddy wasn't coming home. Grief swallowed me. But I had to be strong for my son, building a new life in a smaller apartment, working full-time and keeping James's memory alive. Linda's response to James's death was to tighten her grip. "Move back to Seattle," she urged, as if I couldn't raise Noah alone. When I refused, she found other ways to control me, buying Noah lavish gifts I couldn't match. Then, reminding him, "Mummy can't afford these, but Grandma can." She'd schedule outings that clashed with my time with him, painting me as the bad guy when I objected. Meanwhile, Claire's life sparkled. Married to a tech executive, raising twin boys in a sleek Seattle home family, gatherings became Linda's stage to contrast our lives. "Claire's boys are already coding apps," she'd say. "Is Noah still struggling with fractions still?" I kept the peace for Noah's sake. He loved his cousins, and sometimes when Linda wasn't critiquing me, we had moments that felt like family. Dad remained my quiet supporter, calling to check in or slipping me notes of encouragement. Noah and I built our own world, in Portland hikes in Forest Park Science Club, where he geeked out over marine life and plans for a trip to the Monterey Bay Aquarium. We were finding our footing, healing from James's Caesar's loss when Noah's accident turned everything upside down. As I sat in the hospital clutching his hand, I didn't know the worst test was yet to come. Not from doctors, but from my own mother. 3 days into Noah's coma, I was a wreck. Sleepless, barely eating, living, for every beep of his monitors. The nurses, especially Rachel, were my anchors explaining scans and urging me to rest. Liam's parents dropped off clothes and my co-workers sent meals I couldn't stomach. James's parents called from California, ready to fly up, but I asked them to wait for clearer news. Noah's condition held steady with small signs of hope, stable. Brain pressure, better oxygen levels, but he still hadn't woken up. On the third afternoon, Rachel insisted I take a 20-minute break to shower. "I'll stay with him," she promised. Reluctantly, I agreed, grabbing fresh clothes. As I stepped out, my phone rang Linda. After days of silence, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she'd finally grasped the gravity of Noah's condition. "Kiara," she said, her voice clipped, "I need you in Seattle tomorrow by 2 to help with Claire's birthday party." I froze the hospital hallway, tilting Mum. "Noah's in critical condition? I can't leave him." Her tone sharpened. "The doctors are handling it. Claire's been planning this for months. If you don't come, I'll cut off Noah's college fund. My son was fighting for his life, and she was talking about a party." Anger surged, replacing fear. Noah might not survive Mum. I'm not leaving him for Claire's birthday. Her voice turned icy. "Family loyalty is a two-way street, Ciara. If you don't show up, don't expect our support." Something snapped 35 years of her control. Her criticism, her conditions crystallized in that moment. "I choose Noah," I said, my voice calm but unshakable. "Goodbye." I hung up, deleted her number, and walked back to Noah's side, a strange peace settling over me despite the chaos. Back in Noah's room, I sat by his bed, the weight of cutting ties with Linda mixing with the constant fear for my son. Rachel noticed my shaken expression. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Not really," I admitted, "but I'm here for Noah." The monitors beeped steadily, a reminder of his fragile state. Doubt crept in as I replayed Linda's threat. Noah's college fund was a safety net I couldn't replace easily on my salary. Would my decision hurt him long term? But then I remembered a moment from years ago, Noah, age 7, coming home from a day with Linda asking, "Mum, are we poor? Grandma says we'd have a big house if you'd married someone richer." That memory burned. Linda had used her wealth to make Noah question our life, to undermine James's sacrifice. I'd reassured him, then telling him our love and home were enough. Now, as I held his hand, I whispered, "I did the right thing, buddy. I'm not leaving you." Later, Dad called, hesitant. "Linda told me about your fight. She says you're being disrespectful." I explained her ultimatum, my voice steady despite exhaustion. "Dad, Noah hasn't opened his eyes in 3 days, and she's worried about Claire's party." He sighed. "She doesn't handle crises well, Ciara. She's scared." "That's no excuse," I replied. "I love you, but I can't keep doing this." He promised to visit, but I felt the distance growing, my focus narrowing to Noah alone. The next morning, hope flickered. Dr. Nuon, Noah's neurologist, shared that his latest scans showed reduced brain swelling. A cautious step forward. "We're lowering his sedation today," she said. "It's a marathon, not a sprint." I clung to her words, watching Noah for any sign of awakening. Then my phone buzzed. Claire's text, "Mom says you're skipping my party. Noah's sick, but it's just a few hours. Send a gift." "At least," I stared, stunned. "Just sick. My son was in a coma and she wanted a gift." More texts followed from relatives, all focused on the party, none asking about Noah. Their priorities cut deeper than Linda's threat. By evening, as I helped the physical therapist move Noah's legs, a miracle happened. His fingers twitched in mine. "Rachel, did you see that?" I gasped. She checked the monitors, confirming increased brain activity. "Noah, it's Mum," I whispered. His eyelids fluttered, then opened briefly, unfocused but real. Tears streamed down my face as Dr. Nuon rushed in, confirming Noah was emerging from the coma. "It's gradual," she cautioned, but the hope was overwhelming. Claire's party was happening miles away in Seattle, but I was exactly where I needed to be. Choosing Noah over family drama felt like breaking free from a lifetime of chains. Noah's recovery gained momentum. By morning, he was awake for longer stretches, responding to simple commands. Dr. Nguyen removed the ventilator, and Noah's raspy water was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. He was weak, his memory foggy, but he was back. I was helping him sip water when Linda and Claire stormed into the room unannounced. "We've been trying to reach you," Linda said, her tone sharp. "Claire's birthday was ruined because of you." Noah's eyes darted between us. Confused, I set the cup down, my heart pounding. I turned my phone off when Noah woke up. I said calmly, "Let's talk outside." In the hallway, Linda unleashed her anger. "Your absence embarrassed us. You could have come for an hour," Claire chimed in. "We rescheduled the photographer because you weren't there for the family portrait." I stared, incredulous. "Noah nearly died, and you're upset about a photo." My voice stayed steady, fueled by a new strength. "I was here when Noah opened his eyes." "That's where I belonged," Linda scoffed. "The doctors didn't need you hovering." I stepped closer. "I am his mother. I decide what he needs. You can see him for 5 minutes, one at a time, and only if you're supportive." Linda bristled but agreed, her grandmotherly mask slipping on as she entered. I watched closely, ensuring Noah's peace came first. Over the next year, Noah's recovery became our world. He tackled physical therapy with a grit that reminded me of James, taking his first steps with a walker, then mastering short walks. His memory lapses and headaches were setbacks, but his spirit shone through, cracking jokes with his friend Liam sketching fish again. My co-workers cleaned our apartment. James's parents stayed for weeks, their love a steady anchor. I took on freelance photography, shooting local events to rebuild our savings after Linda cut us off. She followed through, removing us from their will and trust. Dad called regretful, but loyal to her. "I had no choice, Tiara," I told him, meaning it. Claire sent Noah gifts, tentative steps toward reconciliation. But Linda's visits were performative, laced with subtle jabs at my choices. I held firm, limiting their access to protect Noah's recovery. By his 13th birthday, we celebrated in our tiny apartment with Liam's family, my co-workers, and a video call from James's parents. Dad stopped by briefly, his gifts neutral, his presence cautious. Later on our balcony, Noah asked, "Will we ever be close with Grandma again?" I paused, choosing my words. "Sometimes. Love means setting boundaries, buddy. Grandma's way hurts more than it helps." He nodded, wise beyond his years. "You stayed with me, Mum. That's what matters." He was right. Choosing. Noah broke a cycle of guilt and control that had defined my life. We'd lost financial security, but gained something richer. Freedom. To live authentically, surrounded by people who showed up without strings. Noah's accident tested us, but it also showed us our strength. We were enough just as we were. Closing message to everyone who's walked this journey with us. Thank you. You've seen our fears, our fight, and our fresh start. If our story stirred something in you, hit subscribe and join us. Every challenge we face builds a stronger, truer family.